people don't want to repel potential clients when they have no clients. But I'm telling you, if this is your life's work, if this is what you're meant to do, save yourself the heartache. You may take this client on and it may bring some money, but 3 weeks down the road, you're going to have this big frustration and it's going to make you not like your business. Don't do that.
Welcome to the Impact Driven Entrepreneur, the podcast that helps you expand your reach and convert that reach into clients so you can lead your tribe with confidence and create change in the world while living the life you desire. And now your host, certified business coach and consultant, Mariana Ruiz.
Want to increase your sales without so much hustle? Oh my gosh. Let's talk about doing funnels. Funnels are like the thing right now, but whether it's challenge, a tripwire, a webinar, or even getting people on the phone, guess what? All of that is the same. It's a sales process and what some people call funnels, okay? And I want to help you with your sales process because here's the thing. When you can really master and improve that process, you will get more sales in your business. Normally inside of my 6-month coaching program, what I do is I actually look at everything that my clients do. I look at all of their copy, all of their emails, everything that they're doing inside of a launch or outside of a launch. And really, I want to bring that element to a small intensive for you. So what I want to do is offer you the opportunity for me to look at all of your emails, all of your copy, whether it's a challenge, a funnel, a webinar, or a sales call. I will actually listen to your sales call. Yeah, you heard that right. Okay, so in order to get this amazing offer, it's called a funnel intensive. You can find it at impactdrivenentrepreneur.com/workwithme. You can purchase there right away, or if you want to get on the phone and just make sure it's a good fit for both of us, I'd be happy to chat with you. Let's optimize that sales process so that you can start generating more sales in your business without the grind. Hey there, and welcome back to the Impact Driven Entrepreneur. Today we have Nannette Minley. She is a marketing and business coach for spiritual and wellness entrepreneurs. And we're going to be talking about polarizing and about how we can use our content marketing to really move people towards or away from us, as well as how to close more sales through your free content. So I'm so excited to bring her here because I've been seeing her rock it out on Facebook. And I think that she has so much value to share with us. Welcome, Nannette.
I am so glad to be here and so excited that we get to talk about this topic because I honestly contribute like 99% of my success to being able to polarize and repel or attract people just with my free content. I don't really do a lot of paid advertising. And so it's been really cool to grow my business this way. And I love talking about it.
Yeah. So tell us kind of like first, like let's go into a little backstory. Like how did you get started and get to loving this aspect of what you do?
So my journey is really interesting because I feel like I've been doing the same thing for many years, but from the outside in, I was like shifting niches. So what happened was I was initially in network marketing, as a lot of us start out in network marketing, and I had great success there. And so I learned how to coach people basically there in that capacity. And I was initially a coach for like network marketers / like just general entrepreneurs. But as I allowed myself to grow and allowed myself to evolve, I basically allowed my clientele to evolve. And at the end of last year, I was kind of in this space after having served creative entrepreneurs and more like handmade sellers. I was in this space where I was really feeling called to bring my prowess, so to speak, about content marketing and about, connecting with people to the people who can help more people. And that for me looked like working with spiritual entrepreneurs and wellness entrepreneurs, specifically those who approach their work with like a holistic mindset. So we're not busting out just one thing, we're looking at the whole. And I've been working with spiritual entrepreneurs exclusively and wellness entrepreneurs since the end of last year. And wouldn't you know it, I'm way more aligned here and have seen radical growth this year. And I've been working basically the exact same way for several years, but this year is where it really took off because I was able to communicate more effortlessly with these people because I spoke kind of the same language. So my journey is it's one of like finally saying, okay, like I'm going to accept that people are going to think this is weird. They're going to think that I'm okay, yeah, I'm a business coach for spiritual entrepreneurs. If you're not a spiritual entrepreneur, that sounds weird. And I had to kind of like be okay with that. And then when I was, my world changed. I mean, my business blew up. So yeah, that's a little bit about how I got here.
Love that. And I think like there's so much to be said for being in alignment, like with your message. To me, what it looks like is your zone of genius.
Mm-hmm.
You've been doing the thing, you've been good at the thing, but it's like you're almost in this place where you're like, but is that really a thing I can receive money for? Because you're just naturally good at it and you just continue to do it. So I love that. I think it's such a beautiful testament to some of the stuff we really talk about here.
Yeah, it's been an awesome journey. It took a lot of courage, though. I will say that. Like, it took a lot of me saying, okay, like, I'm going to allow this to seem weird for a while. And like, within a couple of weeks, it didn't feel that weird to me. But at first, it felt like I was sharing this giant secret about myself because I come from a background where spiritual entrepreneurs are kind of the odd ones out. Like, I was raised pretty like in the church and stuff. And so I had to have a lot of courage to share, okay, this is who I'm serving. And it was a big, like, taking a stand in my own life. And then I was in alignment. So that was great.
Love that. Absolutely love that. So what is something that you feel entrepreneurs who are really struggling to like really stand out, or like the whole polarizing thing, like what do you think is something that they can do to start getting at the core message? And I guess even more so is like before they have the courage to like step into that core message, is like, how do we even start to identify what that might look like?
Yeah. What I like to do is really take it way, way, way back to the basics. And some of the things that I do with my clients specifically is, what can you talk about for hours without preparation, without having to do a ton of research? What feels the easiest for you? Specifically ease. So we kind of start there. And then we make it really more about a place of core values. So we talk about core values a lot and how your core values are going to affect basically how you interact with the outside world. And so we dig back into core values and we say, okay, what's easy for you to talk about? What do you believe to be true? Like at a very, very core and central place. And I ask a lot of questions. That's really how the process tends to go. Like I ask a ton of questions and keep digging and digging until we finally get to some very, very core truth. Like, for example, one of my core truths is that we have the capability to change our perspective at any moment. And so whenever I'm feeling all wrapped up in stuff, I remember, hey, these are one of my core truths. And I speak from that space all the time. So it helps me communicate from a really, really deep place within myself. And so I have my clients do the same thing. So they can connect with their own deep truth and thus communicate that deep truth. And then they're able to attract people who resonate with that deep truth. But a lot of people are scared to do that digging and scared to do that journey inward, you know?
Mm-hmm, totally. And I think like one of the biggest things that I've learned and that one of my mentors actually told me is like your business growth can never exceed your personal growth.
Yeah.
And I think it's just so true. And I've seen it time and time again with my business. Like when I do dig deep, like the rewards on the business end are usually really grand.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like dig just to improve your business because there's so many improvements everywhere. I think if people are struggling with facing that, is like, it's okay. Like,
yeah,
there are rainbows at the end of that.
For sure. Yeah. And I think that what I love is that people do come to me like basically trying to get better at business, but I do focus a lot on personal growth and do focus a lot on doing this digging for your own self and applying it in different areas of your life. And not only because it is important, but also because it actually helps you like really connect with that truth. A lot of times we have this message or this idea within us, and either we're scared to really fully stand in it or we're not seeing the fullness of it. But for whatever reason, we have some resistance to like really connecting with it. And so it's really important that as soon as we identify it, we start living it out right away. And so that looks like starting to put out content on Facebook that shares like, hey, here's what I believe to be true. What do you guys think? And that's very, very much my style of polarizing, is me sharing like from a space of, here are my thoughts. What do you guys think? It's never me like preaching at anybody or trying to change their mind. I really just want to have a discussion about it. And I tell my clients to do the same thing.
Yeah. And I love that because I think that really opens up conversations that like normally people are too afraid to talk about.
Yeah.
Or like even go there. So I think that's really good. But is there a barometer or like something that we need to like be careful about if we're, talking about something that's super intense or something that's super controversial or like, are there limits to that?
The limits are there, but they are purely internal. And what I mean by that is how much of a backlash can you emotionally handle at the moment? How much of a response like can you handle, like, especially on a feed? Like I'm thinking about Facebook. If you're going to post something like that, just be kind of prepared for a backlash. Not saying that that should make you change your mind, but that means just like, okay, you're here, that this is going to upset some people, but you're going to share it anyway. That's okay. The flip side to that is really how you position your idea in the first place, because you can position it like I was just saying, hey, here's my idea. What do you guys think? But then other people will say, everybody who's not this way is not a real entrepreneur. And that's when you have people up in arms, defending themselves and all of that stuff. So there really is a way to polarize, like tells people how you feel about a subject without shaming or accusing or like degrading other opinions, It's about leveraging your own opinion rather than tearing down everybody else's.
Yeah. And total transparency, right? Like I had a post once and I was furious. So don't post while furious, by the way. I think you know where this is going.
Yeah.
So I had this post and I wrote something to the effect of anybody who doesn't want to work on their business, who has their period, like is not a real entrepreneur or something like that. Like I literally wrote that. And it was a furious post because I had a client who we had been working on and we had been working on some really deep issues to where like she had this one client of hers who continually no-showed for all of her appointments. And it was really frustrating because I'm working with my client on empowering her and getting her to like own her own amazingness and like actually put some boundaries with her client, which of course the chain of clients. So anyways, and then what happened is this person kept saying like, I have my period, I can't attend, and never communicated anything in terms of medically wrong or anything like that. Right. So when I posted that, people were like, but I have endometriosis or whatever, which to me, like me being the nurse, right?
Yeah.
Endometriosis is not the same as having a regular normal period, right? Like a normal menses. So for me, it was like, how are they making that connection? And it was also totally poorly communicated by me, right? Because mostly it came from, hey, like, do the work, show up to your commitments, right? Like that was more of the true message, right? So I think number one, like lessons learned, don't post if you're angry or like upset. Number two, I was totally prepared for that backlash. And like, I was actually still really confident with what I wrote and I still felt great about it. And I lost a lot of people following me and I was still also totally okay with that.
Yeah.
Because my point is show up for your commitments. And instead of arguing for our limitations, I believe we need to argue for our abilities.
Right.
And I've had rough days in my business and I always show up. And so I think what is that true stance? Like really getting to the core of it and really communicating it in a way that's non-judgmental. And I think also like look at it a couple times before you post, I would just say. Do you look at yours a couple times or do you just post it? Like, how do you know how to word it?
For me, I always dig to what I'm actually saying. So in that scenario that you just described, I immediately knew this has nothing to do with the period. This has nothing to do with what she's saying. This has to do with people not honoring their agreements. This has to do with something else. And I was in that conversation, I don't know if you remember, but I was saying like, hey, let's consider the other side because I'm a debater, like, and I enjoyed the conversation. So for me, I definitely do a lot more of what am I actually upset about in a moment. Like if I am going to post about frustration or even glee, I always look to go deeper, say, okay, I'm happy this happened. What does this mean for me at a deeper level? So then I can communicate and understand the real issue here or the real, joy here. And so in that situation, what I would have done if I were you, and I'm not saying you should have done it differently, but what I would have done is saying, okay, I'm upset about this. Why does this bother me? And then that would actually give me a completely different post somewhere along the lines of like, hey guys, if we're going to say we're going to do something, do it, please. Like, let's just be, committed to what we're saying instead of like dilly-dallying with business. Because I really have similar frustrations about people dilly-dallying. Mm-hmm. I'm a high achiever. I'm a type A. I'm like, I only cancel if I'm dying, that kind of thing. So I get similarly frustrated. But what I do to communicate that is saying, okay, like, what am I actually upset about? And that helps me communicate in a way where people aren't misunderstanding me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Totally. Because I think like the misunderstanding came in like all the umbrella of any women's disease came into the conversation. And I'm like, hold on, that's not what I'm talking about at all. Like, I don't know how that happened, right? So I think like that's a really good point is like, let's talk about the real thing that's triggering or upsetting us. And it's still okay to have that and be able to internally deal with that, the backlash, like you say.
Yeah, exactly. And you said when you were talking about it, it's like, I lost a lot of people and I was okay with that. And like, that's really what it comes down to. I actually love like once in a while shaking things up this way because for myself, I don't want to rely on the likes and rely on the popularity of Facebook. Like I want to actually communicate a deeper message. And so with polarizing and the whole idea here of it is like, you're either repelling or attracting, right? So your statements, your attitude about things, just the way that you show up in life constantly is either repelling or attracting. And when you decide, okay, I'm here to be myself instead of I'm here to get the likes and the attraction, then you show up a totally different way. And that's what makes cool people, like in movies, cool people, just because they don't care whether you like them or not, right? And so they're showing up as themselves and they're standing in their identity versus people who post just to get likes and like move their business around, move their positions around, just be really, really fluid to not upset anybody. Then people can smell that, And so for me, I kind of just like to circumvent this and say, okay, here's how I feel. Here's my beliefs on this, et cetera. And I always speak from that direction. Like, I think this. And it does the work for me of repelling and attracting. But more importantly, it shows people I'm not scared that you might not like me, and I think that level of confidence is in itself appealing to people.
Yeah. And I think it's really necessary for everybody. Mm-hmm. Like, we're not doing this for the purpose of popularity, right? Like, whatever that internal message is, it's really important that you share it.
Yeah.
And there's something to be really said for polarizing, right? Like, I mean, I think all of the people who have been in this industry for a long time, right? Or like thought leaders are thought leaders because they led the way with their own unique stance on stuff.
Yeah. And that's actually a great point. Leadership, right? It's important for me to identify as leader. And so that's why I think it was so easy for me to embrace polarizing, because I understand that anyone who's a leader of any kind is going to have friends, is going to have enemies, right? And so it kind of comes with the territory, so to speak. And so then I was able to kind of like let go of the pressure around it, right? I know that I'm going to get to the top of somewhere and there's people who are going to love me and people are going to hate me, but it doesn't really matter because this is my position. This is where I want to be. And so when people start thinking about themselves as like the leader of their business or the leader of their life or the leader of their industry, whatever, then they're going to have a lot more confidence in sharing that polarizing content. But the thing is, like, polarizing also serves a very, very functional aspect in your business, which is really sorting leads and sorting people into these people are going to work well with me versus these people may like my content, but are really not going to work well with me. And, or people who just hate my guts, and that's okay. But it serves a very functional purpose. I notice who likes what kinds of content. And this allows me to say, okay, this person really likes every time that I speak out about this particular topic. Let's start a conversation with this person about that topic and see where it goes. And 9 times out of 10, it goes somewhere. So there's an important part of polarizing that a lot of people don't talk about, is just keeping track of where the chips fall, after everything is said and done. Because if you find that people are consistently reacting a certain way to a certain topic, you can really use that information in a great way to gain a client or a collaboration or something like that.
Totally. I love that. I think like being strategic at a higher level of like, how is this going to lead to leads? And I think it just overall leads to better leads. Like you're just going to allow some of those people to fall off, right? So I'm going to be perfectly honest here. And I've talked about this on the podcast before, but one of the things that happened to me is I had somebody who's a white supremacist following me. And I realized I was not polarizing people. Like this was an error on my part in terms of the marketing that I was putting out there, right? Because I wasn't sharing my origin story about I'm from Venezuela and like, right. So that would automatically have this person not follow me anymore. Right. So I think you don't ever want that person who is totally not a match for you to follow you. And like, what if this person had purchased my one-on-one coaching program? I mean, if we had gotten to that level, that would have put us in a very awkward position.
For sure. For sure. And I use my content the same way. Like that's exactly my whole song and dance for this, is that by the time someone's on a compatibility call with me or something like that, discovery call, I want there to be no foundational big red flags. Okay. So like, I'm not here to have a bunch of discovery calls just for fun. Like by the time we get to that step, this person has consumed my content on Facebook. They know my cadence, so to speak. They know where I stand on a lot of topics. And this allows me to close sales calls in 5-10 minutes for like 5-figure packages. You know what I'm saying? It saves you so much time on the sale if you've done all the work of qualifying with your free content. And honestly, it's the best thing I ever did, starting to speak my mind on my Facebook page about particular topics, and I'm not talking about controversial stuff all the time, but I do speak in a way that challenges people a lot. I'm not like ever shaming or anything like that, but I do challenge you to look at your situation differently, or look at your business differently or whatever. And by the time people are actually communicating with me, like in my messenger to set something up or whatever, they understand I'm not here for nonsense. So they're not going to bring me nonsense. It really just saves me a ton of time.
Yeah, exactly. So like that is a really big pro. Like if anybody is like, but I don't know if I really want to do that, or like there's still any fear in that, like that hopefully will help you to embrace the polarizing. And how can we do it in a way that's like, how do I put this, right? Like, how do we do it more strategically, right? So like, are you doing it with, hey, this is what I'm selling, or are we doing like just random values here and there?
I'm very strategic about it. So I have my ideal client, avatar, and I call it soulmate clients. Other people call it ideal clients. But I have this living, breathing document that I change at any given moment. But I have a list of the people's like qualities and traits that I want to call in. And what I do with my content then is to make sure that I'm actively repelling the opposite. So for example, I had a client who was extremely, extremely needy, like extremely, was messaging me basically around the clock. And I didn't realize this was a problem I had until I was having it. And I was like, oh my gosh, never again. So then I went to my soulmate client, like avatar, I have it in Trello, and I added like very independent, like self-leading, blah, 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 to my soulmate client avatar there. And then I started talking on that on my Facebook and saying like, nobody can do this for you. You have to want it for yourself, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm using my like, short quotes. I do very, very like quick to the point questions or ideas. And that's how I have grown my engagement, but I am going to start putting out more long form content here in the future. And what I do with that is saying, okay, if you are triggered by me saying this, excellent. We're not a good fit. Maybe you'll find somebody else who's going to work with you. And I think that people are scared though to polarize, because when you're starting your business, or maybe if you're in a dry spell in your business, it's kind of like, take whatever you can get, maybe this is not the best client for me, but like, oh, I need some money right now. And that's where the fear really starts coming up for polarizing. People don't want to repel potential clients when they have no clients. But I'm telling you, if this is your life's work, if this is what you're meant to do, save yourself the heartache. You may take this client on and it may bring some money, but 3 weeks down the road, you're going to have this big frustration and it's going to make you not like your business. Don't do that. Save yourself the heartache, save yourself the potential partial refund if you have that, because I've had to do that. And I'm just like, no, this is not a good fit for me. I'm going to have to end it. And that's what I've done. But I've learned my lesson. I'm extremely choosy with who I bring on at this capacity. I've created items that can be consumed without having to work a ton one-on-one with me. So if someone's not a perfect fit, they can still get something from me. But when it goes beyond that group setting or whatever into a one-on-one relationship, this person needs to be somebody I am completely okay with and comfortable with and enjoy being around, and that's part of me building my business the way I want to build it. And I think that the fear of polarizing is kind of fueled by the fear of not having enough clients. And I've found the opposite to be true. Like the more I polarize, the more clients I get. So
yeah. And I think it's like, let's not let that scarcity mindset. And I love how you're like calling these are the clients I'm calling in. And just even that word, right? The ideal clients, her description of is like, these are the clients that I am bringing to me, right? So like you're automatically nixing that scarcity mindset of, oh, but hang on, there might not be enough or like whatever, right? Like put that to the side, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there's almost 8 billion people here on the planet. The way I look at it, it's like, it is impossible for me to not find clients, because there are so many people every single day breaking into the industry. There's so many people every day going to a new level in their industry. The world of like online coaching and online business, it's kind of new still. I mean, there's been ages of it happening, but it's really blowing up into a whole new thing. But there are still people who don't even know what an online business coach is. So like, don't get so trapped in this idea that Facebook is this tiny pool of people and your friends list is all that you have as far as potential clients. I have had multiple times I answer somebody's question in a group. That person comes, friends me, messages me, and within like a week has hired me for a full-on one-on-one coach. So it can happen from anywhere. It can come from anywhere. I've had people hire me that I've met in person. And so just my belief around it, and my belief is supported by my life evidence, is that you can find clients anywhere. And so why not create the avatar of who you want to call in? With how much diversity exists in the world, like the person you're writing about exists. There's no way they don't. So yeah, it's been awesome to have that abundance mindset really sink in here, because I just have had too many situations where I don't really have anybody. And then all of a sudden people out of left field come and say, hey, I'd actually like to work with you. And they're exactly who I want and exactly like working on the kinds of projects that light me up and all of that. So I just have experienced it over and over again. And I think I started experiencing it because I did not let the fear of scarcity stop me from moving. For a while I did, but when I stopped doing that, when I was just like, all right, I'm putting it out there, I'm going to show up, and I'm not even fully showing up all the way yet. And so people are going to be surprised, and I'm like going to be really boosting my visibility and stuff. But it is so amazing to see how the people that I call in, right? Like you were talking about, I'm like, I want that person. I have eyes on the people I want to work with. Some of them even know I want to work with them. I'm like, I'm ready for you whenever you're ready. And it's been just a completely like freeing experience of being okay with polarizing, being okay with calling certain people in, being okay with saying, I'm not the best coach for you, but maybe you might want to try this person or this program or whatever, because that's going to be a better fit for you. Because I'm never worried about like, am I going to have enough or am I going to find another client? Because I always do.
Oh my gosh. So good. I love that. And I think like maybe even let's make it a challenge, right? Let's make it a challenge for anyone listening to this episode. Like how easily can you get your next client? Because I feel like so many times we try to overly complicate or like get stuck in analysis paralysis or all of this stuff. And so like, what if we just let our next client flow to us like really easily?
Yeah, it's been amazing. I'm going to write about it in extensive, like sometime soon. But I have had so many experiences like that where I'm just like, oh, I'm going to check in on this person. I check in on them. And lo and behold, they were just thinking about me because they're finally ready to invest and blah, blah, blah. So that's another point actually that I want to make sure I hit on. Like if you do approach someone like via Messenger or something and they say, it's not a good time for me or whatever they say, like don't mark them off your list. Come back to them because you've already built rapport with them. And you may never know, like they might come into some money or they might actually start getting some traction in their business or they're thinking about how they're going to spend their tax return or whatever. And so coming back around to these people is really, really important too. But that's how a lot of my clients are coming in right now because people who said to no or not now to me in the summer are now ready,
Mm-hmm. And I think that really speaks to the kind of difference I see. And I look at sales and marketing really, really differently as like two different aspects, right? Like marketing for me is how am I being visible online or, how am I drawing people in to like my circle and how am I staying top of mind? And then like sales is like that outbound, like you're going out there and you're actually approaching people and following up and that kind of thing. And I know one of the things that you stand for that I saw you post about in a group one day was about how it's really important to have a sales pipeline and to talk about sales, even if you have a really like heart-centered business. And I couldn't agree more with you. Like actually one of the episodes that came out recently was about that. You can have like the world's sweetest message, but you have to have a sharp focus on sales and selling in order to make that a profitable business, right? Would you agree? And like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I do look at sales and marketing differently. Basically what you were talking about. What I love though, is that if you know that sales is not your strong point right now, you really can do a lot of that legwork in your marketing instead. And so, for example, for a while, I had some apprehensions with sales, especially as my price points were going up because I realized the quality of my work was worth more than what I was charging, which I'm sure you've run into with your clients. And so I noticed that I was kind of uncomfortable with that process. What I started doing really is putting a lot more of the workload and a lot of the, legwork on the marketing. So by the time I was doing those outbound sales, a lot of that polarizing had already been done, So I wasn't having to have this really intense back and forth with somebody. I mean, like I said, most of my sales calls are like 5-10 minutes because by the time they get on the phone, they're like, I feel like I already know you, and it's really just a matter of logistics. It's just a matter of like, okay, how long is the program, whatever. So definitely that. But I will say that I have really stepped more into being comfortable with sales recently and reaching out to people in Messenger and all of that stuff. And I have found it to be so much more effective because of the way that I market on a regular basis. And I really think that has a lot to do with where I'm at right now and how everything's looking for me right now. Because I've focused on marketing for a while, but now I'm also really getting great at sales. And so it's just like this 1-2. But if you're somebody who's kind of nervous around sales and nervous around asking for money when it comes down to it, you can really kind of export a lot of that work to your marketing, but you'll have to be more strategic about your marketing then, making sure that you're hitting all of the particular questions that people might have, clarifying your offer, all of those things so that by the time you are having that sales conversation, it's, really, really breezy.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I've had people come to me on both ends, right? Like on the end of like, oh my God, all I do is sell, but I'm like pushing up against this huge barrier because they've had zero marketing. Therefore, like it's super hard to close a sale if you don't have marketing. And on the flip side is people who only focus on marketing and can't close any sales because they're not following up. Right. So I totally am with you on that. Like I think that they work really closely together. And I think, like you said, you have to be really strategic and just never, kind of like you said, right? Like
you pushed through when, even though you had a little tiny bit of doubt, right? Like, even though you felt like, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to do this? You just kept pushing through. And like, once there's almost like a point where the water's about to boil over. And if you just stick with it, it will.
Yeah, for sure. And when I've had that push, when I finally pushed into that space, it's because I literally didn't have a choice. And I think this is when you and I started really connecting at the end of last year. That is when, like, okay, I need this to work now, okay? Because I was moving, I'm the only income, all of that stuff was happening. And I really didn't have a choice for it to not work. And that really, miraculously enough, lit a fire under me. And I was like, all right, I'm doing personal outreach. I'm personally inviting the people to work with me. And that has been such a transformation just throughout this year, because I didn't really have a choice but to really get into it. A lot of people do have kind of a more relaxed approach to their business, and they're not really relying on that income. And so I think that was the difference for me when I really had to be the sole income provider and like do that. That's when things kicked up and I really just stepped into it. And it was very, very uncomfortable at first, but again, I didn't really have a choice, but now I love it. Now it's like my favorite thing. So it grows on you, and it hasn't even been a whole year of that,
Love that. So I think that's also testament to like how quickly we can evolve, right? Like things change so quickly, and not only in this space, but also like the more you work on yourself and your business, like things change really, really quickly. And if you allow it to.
For sure. Can I tell a quick story on that?
Yeah.
Okay. So last year, a year ago, it has to do with pricing and all of that. Like last year, a year ago, I was still working with crafting and art and creative entrepreneurs. And I remember actually sold a coaching package. It was like 6 months for like $500. And I was like, what is happening? Yeah, So anyway, I did it. I sold it and I was like, okay, great. Like I did this. And that was like such a big victory for me. Fast forward to now, I don't have a coaching package under 10K. So that is the transformation I had in 1 year. And that is just a perfect testament to what you were saying. Like I evolved super rapidly. But I dug into my growth. I really, really like did a lot of work personally, internally. I'm like leaning into my healing and uncovering trauma and all of that stuff on a daily basis. Like this is what I do. And so I was able to really go through the glass ceiling like 8 times. I've raised my prices like probably 5 times in the last year. So yeah, people change. Growth happens really fast when you're ready for it. And I keep wondering every time I change my prices if people are going to still want, and they do. And so it's been a really awesome journey. So if you're someone out there that's still like, I can't charge very much, or I'm like still kind of getting started, I'm feeling kind of shy or whatever, like understand that you can have that transformation happen in less than a year. I just keep thinking of like where I was a year ago and where I am now. And it's just night and day. Like it's night and day.
Absolutely love that. It's so awesome. And so incredible for you to share that. And also thank you for being vulnerable, because I think there probably is somebody listening who's like, I really don't know if I can go up. And it's just like, yes, you can. Like you can always go up. You can always grow. You can always evolve. And I think a really key thing that you mentioned there is you're working on that every day, that internal, like we talked about in the beginning, the personal growth side is really important for you to catapult your business forward.
Yeah. And for me, like that personal growth and how it relates to this is like just me standing in my power and really owning how well I do things. And I always thought, okay, well, marketing's so easy for me, so I can't really charge that much, blah, 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 like just lies. And I realized that not only should I charge plenty for my marketing knowledge because it is easy for me, I've been obsessed with marketing my entire life, right? But also I started to look at how my brain works and started to look at the way my brain works being my like gift to the world. Like the way I see things, the way I analyze particular topics, just my whole worldview, I incorporate that into my pricing because it helps my clients a lot. The way that I view problems and the way that I view any sort of challenge, I'm always able to kind of look at it like in a 360, look at all the way around. And for me, leaning into my personal growth equaled me really owning that part of myself and saying like, this is actually really hard for some people and it's really easy for me. And I'm able to bring that gift to people and save them a crap ton of time figuring all this out on their own. And that's why I was able to very confidently raise my prices over and over again. On top of all that, I was also polarizing and making it so that people who were approaching me to work with me understood that that's what I brought to the table and where my prices were at. So all of that has to do with polarizing in, still, because I'm communicating as I'm going through that growth. I have a very like live out loud kind of feed. When a thought and something happens, I share it then, and it allows people to kind of follow me along this journey and ultimately leads to more sales because people are there and they're seeing me grow and they're very excited about it and want to kind of be affiliated with it too,
Yeah, totally. I love this. Oh my gosh, this has been an incredible conversation. Where can people connect with you? Where can people follow up with you and get to know more about you?
For sure. So like I've been saying, my personal page is where I'm at most of the time, but I am really starting to focus more on my business page, which is just Nannette Minley. It's actually like spelled exactly the same. There's no dashes or anything. So sometimes people get confused. And I have my website, nannetteminley.com as well. I am blogging on there semi-regularly. And I'm also doing live streams on my business page as well, starting next week. So all of that is where you can find me, but really you can also just friend me and I'm normally pretty cool to hang around.
Yeah, you are. Is there any like a final like actionable tip that somebody can go do today to propel their business forward to impact more people and do it at a deeper level?
Yes, I would definitely say to connect with yourself, like journaling or for some people writing is hard. So maybe you can do like a video just by yourself or whatever. And really go down inside and say, what is it that I'm here to share with the world? What feels like it's trying to come out of me? Or what am I always saying? What am I always repeating? And kind of figure out what your core message is. And it's especially fun if you're able to kind of tie different aspects of yourself back to that core message, and back to that core belief. And once you have that written down, share it with somebody and say, hey, do you think that this makes sense for me? I think I believe this. What do you think? And just that act of writing it down first and then sharing it with somebody is going to bring you so much more like ahead of wherever you were, because now you're owning the center of you. And now you're really stepping into your power, in a really new and exciting way. So that's what my tip would be. Write it down or journal it out and however you have to do it. And then go ask somebody or just talk to somebody about it. You can talk to me about it if you want, because I'm definitely someone who likes to hear about that stuff on a regular basis.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been awesome. I can't wait to get this episode out to everybody.
You're welcome.
Head on over to impactdrivenentrepreneur.com where you can find an arsenal of videos, blog posts, and previous podcast episodes to help you increase your profit and impact. Again, impactdrivenentrepreneur.com and click on blog. Enjoy.